Sandy Says Read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a review and discussion of The Warden by Anthony Trollope. Let me get that up there where hopefully you can see it. Yes, very nice. You guys, my first introduction to Anthony Trollope came a few years after college. Okay, I didn't get to study Trollope during college. It wasn't one of the assigned readings. Okay, so after college, I read Can You Forgive Her? I read that one and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. And then it took a little while before I got some more of his books on my shelf and read some more stuff. I have not yet read the Barsetshire Chronicles, so that's what I'm diving into now here more recently. So I started with The Warden, and I was so excited to see that Pat over at Book Chat with Pat and one of her reading friends was going to be reading The Warden during the month of May. And that kind of spurred me to, yes, dive into it, read it during May, and then bring that here to you guys on the channel as well. So shall we dive in? Shall we begin with the specs as we do here on the channel? The specs are The Warden. It was first published in 1855, but this particular version is the Oxford University Press version, and it was published in 2014. I'm going to begin talking about the first part of it, the main part of this book, which is The Warden. There's another story at the back, which we will also discuss. Let's see, it begins with a biography, then there's an introduction, there's a note on the text, then there's a select bibliography, and then there's a chronology of, Trollope's work, and there's a chronology of his work set with things that were going on in society at the same time. So you can kind of see what was happening in the world at the time of his birth, at the time that he went into the post office, at the time that he wrote different works. Okay, you can kind of see how those things happened. Then there's also a map of Barsetshire. Let's see if did I put a tab on that? Yes, I did, because I wanted to show you guys the map. Let's see if we can show that on the screen. You can see the map of Barsetshire, this made-up place that he came up with. Then let's see, pages 5 through 169 is our story of The Warden, and it's written in third-person omniscient past tense, which made me very happy. Oh, did I give you a Sandy synopsis? No, I didn't write down a Sandy synopsis. Really? Come on, what was I thinking? So let me give you a Sandy synopsis off the top of my head. This is the story of Mr. Harding. He is a reverend, and he is the warden, or the preceptor of it's called a hospital. It's Hiram's Hospital. It is a charity organization, a charity place where older gentlemen who have lived out their lives and are now in need of a place to live can go, and they stay there at this hospital. And Mr. Harding basically looks over them. He doesn't really take care of them, but he helps arrange for them to be taken care of. He sees to their religious needs, and he helps lead in choir stuff. Okay, he takes care of those sorts of things. He also helps manage taking care of the grounds. He doesn't physically take care of the grounds, but he helps manage that. He's the warden of this hospital. Is that good? It's like an almshouse. Okay, yeah. Okay, but so the synopsis of that, it has been called into question whether or not he should be paid the amount of money he's being paid to take care of these gentlemen and this almshouse, this hospital. It's being called into question because the original owner of this place, Hiram, he left in his will some instructions, but not a lot of instructions. And so now people in the society are deciding that the instructions were too loose and they want to change the way it's set up. Yeah, that's our synopsis. I didn't explain it very well. We're going to go through the story together. And as we go through the story together, Anthony Trollope will explain it a whole lot better than I just did. Okay? Okay. Let us begin. Here we go. Let us begin with a statement from Mr. Trollope that made me tear up. Yeah, okay. Appendix 1 at the back. let's see if I can get to it, page 232. Page 232. He has a statement here. It says, I, the author, had formed for myself so complete a picture of the locality, had acquired so accurate a knowledge of the cathedral town and the county in which I had placed the scene, and had become by a long continued mental dwelling in it so intimate with sundry of its inhabitants, that to go back to it and write about it again and again have been one of the delights of my life. You guys, I felt that in my soul. When I was reading the appendix and I got to that, I mean, it made me tear up a little bit. And I wrote out to the side, I put a little heart, I wrote out to the side, same, Anthony, same. I felt that. You guys, I've got a video here on the channel about how to create your story Bible for your world building when you're writing. I mean, it's in the do-it-yourself playlist for writers and creatives. And I talk about this a little bit. There is a comfort, there is a wonderful familiarity in going into the world you're creating when you're an author, when you're a writer. And I love that. I very much enjoy escaping into the worlds I create when I'm writing. And Anthony's talking about it right there. I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, I feel it. I'm with you. But yeah, I teared up a little bit when I was reading that. I feel you, dude. Okay. What else did I want to say before we dive in? Oh, yes. I want to offer some recommended listening. When you read The Warden, I recommend listening to some hymns and other compositions by Henry Purcell. Right early on in the story, we learn that Mr. Harding, our main character, he likes listening to and playing compositions by three different, did I write them down? 3 different composers. We might have to go into the, hold please. We might have to go in here to see those. Here we go. Purcell, Crotch, and Nares. Henry Purcell, John Nares, and William Crotch had been leading composers of English church music in the previous 200 years. All of them were also cathedral organists. Yeah, there we go. Okay. One of the notes was about that. But Mr. Harding had purchased music to play from them, and he played the violoncello. When he's talking to people, when he gets upset or anxious, he plays the violoncello. He plays it in his mind, right? And so his fingers will move as if he's playing the notes on the neck of the violoncello. And sometimes he'll even make bow movements with his other hand while he's talking to someone or while someone is talking to him. And he can sometimes become quite animated in doing this. And it's a little bit odd and just a quirky habit of this character that I found interesting. I just thought sometimes it seemed charming, and at other times I'm like, dude, people are going to look at you strange. Stop it. Yeah, that was interesting. But I wanted to point out that if you wanted to be immersed in Mr. Harding's mind, if you wanted to be just like immersed in him, listen to Henry Purcell's compositions while you're reading it. I did, and I found it very enjoyable. I went onto Spotify to look for some Henry Purcell music. Lo and behold, someone had already created a Purcell playlist. Like, fabulous. So I just put that on and I listened to that while I was reading, and that turned out great. All right. What else? I wanted to point out, okay, there are 12 beadsmen who live at this Hiram's hospital. So let's talk about what a beadsman is. Let's go back to these notes again. And it says, beadsmen, inmates of an almshouse, who, before the Reformation, would have been expected to pray for the soul of their benefactor. Now, in this case, the benefactor is going to be Mr. Harding. These 12 beadsmen are the older gentlemen who no longer are employed anywhere. They're older. They're done with work. They've done what they needed to do throughout their lives, and now they are just, I don't want to say they're just waiting to die, but they're older gentlemen who are past their prime, and they're just living at the almshouse. They're taking charity. They're living in the almshouse, and they get a stipend per day to basically live there at the almshouse. And it even says here, they're getting 2 pence And did I write it down better somewhere else? They're getting 1 shilling and 4 pence per day. That is what they are given for living at the almshouse. That was in Hiram's will. That was some of his instructions. Now, Mr. Harding, being kind, he wants to give them a little bit more than that. So out of his own allowance, out of his own income, he gives them an additional, is it 2 shilling? 2 pence. He gives them an additional 2 pence per day. Each one of them, each of the 12, they get an additional 2 pence per day from himself. It's just what he wanted to do. Other people in his life advised him against doing that, but he wanted to, just out of his own, the goodness of his own heart. Talking about this word, beadsman, in this note back here, it says bead from the old English prayer. And I thought, well, hang on a second. Let us consult the text, the Beowulf text. And when we go to the Beowulf text, Bayad in Old English is it actually tells you to go see bidden. I'll spit it out. I don't speak Old English, okay? It has been a long time. It's been a hot minute since I was reading Old English. Okay, so if we go to bidden, it is a verb. It means ask, request, entreat. Well, let me go here. To ask of a thing. Let's see, go further. That's it. All this stuff is, it's a blending of bidden and beodan. Also, let's consult the other text in Sweet's Anglo-Saxon Primer. It gives us a little bit more, because when we go to bad, bade, and badan, it says see bidden. We go over to bidden, and this one is where we get the actual prayer word. Where is it? Bidden. It's a strong verb to ask of person and of a thing. Ask for, beg, or pray. So that's where the prayer is coming from. The note that says prayer, Old English prayer, that's where they're getting that prayer idea from. So these beadsmen, these men who are living at the hospital, they are expected to live there, take in their charity, and pray for the warden, pray for Mr. Harding. This matters. I'm harping on this for a reason, okay? And we're going to get into that reason shortly. These 12, I was disappointed in them. Not all of them were naughty, but yeah, we're going to get into that. Now, Mr. Harding has 2 daughters. He has Susan, who married Reverend Dr. Theophilus Grantley, and we're always calling him Mr. Grantley, so we don't have to say that whole name. And Mr. Harding is friends with his father. So Dr. Grantley has a dad. His dad is the bishop, and Mr. Harding is friends with the bishop. Susan married Dr. Grantley. They're living in their own house over here. Okay. Then Mr. Harding, his other daughter is Eleanor, and sometimes he calls her Nellie, and she still lives with him. So she lives at the hospital with him. Next. Okay. Let's go through our character list. I did mention these people, but let's go through our list. Mr. Harding is Reverend Septimus Harding, and he's an older gentleman. He's middle-aged. Okay, he has the 2 daughters, old enough to be marriable. Okay, Susan is married. Eleanor is of an age where she could get married. I think she's like 18, 20, right in there. Okay, so she's of an age. Keep that in mind. Then we have Eleanor Harding. And let's go to page 89 and take a look at Eleanor. If I can get there. Hold, please. And how beautiful Eleanor appeared to him as she slowly walked into the room. Not for nothing had all those little cares been taken. Though her sister, the archdeacon's wife, had spoken slightingly of her charms, Eleanor was very beautiful when seen aright. Hers was not one of those impassive faces which have the beauty of a marble bust, finely chiseled features, perfect in every line, true to the rules of symmetry, as lovely to a stranger as to a friend, unvarying unless in sickness or as age affects them. She had no startling brilliancy of beauty, no pearly whiteness, no radiant carnation. She had not the majestic contour that rivets attention, demands instant wonder, and then disappoints by the coldness of its charms. You might pass Eleanor Harding in the street without notice, but you could hardly pass an evening with her and not lose your heart. So Anthony Trollope is making it clear that she's not some great beauty, but she's lovely inside, and she's interesting, and she's intriguing. And if you sit down and you talk to her, she has a great personality. But she really does. She has a great personality. And as we go through this story, she is devoted to her father. She cares about her father, and she'll go to the man that she's in love with, and she will read him the riot act on behalf of her father. And I thought that was very upstanding quality. Then we have Susan Harding Grantley, and we have, the Reverend Dr. Grantley. These two, they're quite manipulative, okay? We don't really see a lot of Susan. She's a character. She's there. She's sort of a supporting character. We see a lot more of Dr. Grantley than we do of Susan Grantley. Let's see. Did I give you some pages? Page 69. Oh, geez. Okay, page 69. We're looking at Dr. Grantley, and I wrote out to the side, is John Bold the good guy? We're going to talk about John in a second here, but I'm questioning because Dr. Grantley is being presented as just kind of rude, okay? Dr. Grantley, as he cogitated on the matter, leaning back in his brougham as he journeyed into Barchester, felt that it would be difficult to communicate his own satisfaction either to his father or his father-in-law. He wanted success on his own side and discomfiture on that of his enemies. The bishop wanted peace on the subject, a settled peace if possible, but peace at any rate till the short remainder of his own days had spun itself out. Mr. Harding required not only success and peace, but demanded also that he might stand justified before the world. And Dr. Grantley is just like, I just want to win. He just wanted to win. And we'll talk about what he wants to win in a moment. Page 16. And on page 16, Dr. Grantley was by no means a bad man. He was exactly the man which such an education as his was most likely to form, his intellect being sufficient for such a place in the world, but not sufficient to put him in advance of it. So he's an educated man, but just a little ew. Okay, now let's talk about John Bold. Our next character on the list is John Bold. I'm going to make some vague statements about him. We will be looking at him as we look at other points in the story later. But John Bold is he's like the foil in the story. He's the one who he's come to this town, and he's seeing things in the town that just don't sit right with him. So he's meddling, and he's not meddling to be a problem. He's not meddling to be a meddler. He's meddling because he thinks it's the right thing to do. He's meddling because he sees something that might not be right, and it should be set to right. And the thing that he sees as not quite right is the way the money is distributed at Hiram's Hospital. So he's looking over here at Hiram's Hospital, where he has friends. He's friends with the warden. He's friends with Harding, and he's friends with Eleanor. In fact, he loves Eleanor. He's in love with her. He wants to marry her, and she's in love with him. But he's looking at what's going on over there at the hospital, and he thinks to himself, wow, Mr. Harding is getting £800 a year, and these 12 beadsmen are just getting this little pittance per day, which adds up to a nice sum per year. But should they get more? Here's what's happened. Since Hiram passed away, however many, I want to say it's been 200 years ago. It hasn't been quite that long, but I can't do numbers. I think I remember it being about 200 years ago. Since he passed away, the hospital has had some improvements. Since he passed away, the land around the hospital has had some improvements. And so the rent coming into the hospital, the income of the hospital has increased. Okay, the hospital's worth has increased. And so the amount being paid to the warden of the hospital has increased. But the amount of charity going to the beadsmen who, spend their final days at the hospital has not increased. I don't think it's 200 years. You guys, in the comments below, correct me on how many years it's been since Hiram passed, because I'm not getting it right. I don't have it right in my head. I can't do numbers. You guys put that in the comments below so that we get it right in our discussion. Okay, anyway, John Bold, he's been listening to other people suggest this as well. So he's decided he's going to look into it. And in fact, they're bringing, a law firm is bringing a suit against the property, against like the bishop and against the hospital, and the warden is in the middle of it. Mr. Harding is in the middle of this. Mr. Harding, who gets his 800 pounds a year, is basically being not vilified, but he's being trounced upon. And people are looking at him and saying, wait a minute, why do you get 800 pounds a year? What are you doing for that 800 pounds a year? Why do you get 800 pounds when these beadsmen who need charity don't get that much? So what's happened is John Bold has started something. He started something that upsets the apple cart, basically. And he does feel badly about it. He feels badly that his friend and the father of the woman he loves is going through all this ruckus because he just wants to set things to right. Now, he doesn't think that Mr. Harding is doing anything bad on purpose, but he does want to get to the bottom of it. He wants to figure out, okay, who's doing the accounting? Who's running the accounts? Who knows how the money is being spent? Who knows how this is? He wants to get to the bottom of it. Okay. Then we have a character named Tom Towers. This guy, oh my word. Anthony Trollope eviscerates Tom Towers, and he does so brilliant, scathingly. It is so satirical, so sarcastic, so well done. Tom Towers is a reporter, a writer for a newspaper called The Jupiter. And The Jupiter is a parallel to, an allegory for the Times. And Trollope just eviscerated that newspaper. He was so pointed in his commentary. Let's go to that on pages 110 and 111 and talk about Tom Towers for a moment. Tom Towers, and he alone, knows all about it. Why, oh why, ye earthly ministers, why have ye not followed more closely this heaven-sent messenger that is among us? Were it not well for us in our ignorance that we confided all things to the Jupiter? Would it not be wise in us to abandon useless talking, idle thinking, and profitless labor? Away with majorities in the House of Commons, with verdicts from judicial bench given after much delay, with doubtful laws and the fallible attempts of humanity. Does not the Jupiter, coming forth daily with 80,000 impressions full of unerring decision on every mortal subject, set all matters sufficiently at rest? Is not Tom Towers here, able to guide us and willing? Yes, indeed, able and willing to guide all men in all things, so long as he is obeyed, as autocrat should be obeyed, with undoubting submission. Only not let ungrateful ministers seek other colleagues than those whom Tom Towers may approve. Let church and state, law and physic, commerce and agriculture, the arts of war and the arts of peace, all listen and obey, and all will be made perfect. Has not Tom Towers an all-seeing eye? From the diggings of Australia to those of California, right round the habitable globe, does he not know, watch, and chronicle the doings of every one? From a bishopric in New Zealand to an unfortunate director of a Northwest Passage, is he not the only fit judge of capability? From the sewers of London to the Central Railway of India, from the palaces of St. Petersburg to the cabins of Connaught, nothing can escape him. Britons have but to read, obey, and be blessed. None but the fools doubt the wisdom of the Jupiter. None but the mad dispute its facts. And I wrote out in the side, biting. Yeah, I mean, there is no doubting Trollope's opinion of the Jupiter of the Times. There's no doubting Tom Towers he's a stand-in for all the reporters and all the writers of the time who Trollope was just frustrated with. Then over here on page 111, some great man, some mighty peer, we'll say a noble duke, retires to rest feared and honored by all his countrymen, fearless himself, if not a good man, at any rate a mighty man, too mighty to care much what men may say about his want of virtue. He rises in the morning degraded, mean, and miserable, an object of men's scorn, anxious only to retire as quickly as may be to some German obscurity, some unseen Italian privacy, or indeed anywhere out of sight. What has made this awful change? What has so afflicted him? An article has appeared in the Jupiter. Some 50 lines of a narrow column have destroyed all his grace's equanimity and banished him forever from the world. No man knows who wrote the bitter words. The clubs talk confusedly of the matter, whispering to each other this and that name, while Tom Towers walks quietly along Pall Mall with his coat buttoned close against the east wind, as though he were a mortal man and not a god dispensing thunderbolts from Mount Olympus. Yeah, you guys, when the Jupiter prints an article about Hiram's Hospital and names Mr. Harding as someone who is reproachable, as someone who is doing something underhanded, as someone who does not deserve that 800 pounds a year, it cuts Mr. Harding. He's ashamed. He's worried. He looks at the article and thinks, wow, I wonder if some of this is true. I wonder if I don't deserve 800 pounds a year to keep up the hospital and manage the affairs here and take care of these beadsmen. I wonder if maybe 800 pounds a year is too much for the amount of work I'm doing. Maybe this article is right. And he's chagrined by that. He's ashamed. And he is concerned that people out there in the world think of him as lesser than. I mean, he's a man of the cloth, right? He doesn't want to be seen as money grubbing. He doesn't want to be seen as someone who's taking advantage of these men who rely on charity. And he's ashamed. I mean, he gets downright depressed about it. There's lines in here where you can tell he's just depressed. And I'm sure I've got some marked for us to look at later. But Tom Towers is an awful individual. He's just writing stuff that is destroying people's lives. And yes, you can see a parallel in today's society if you just look. And we have more of Tom Towers on page 123. And we're also seeing a little bit of John Bold here. John went to Tom Towers to talk to him at page 123. He's here in town talking to Tom. There's some alliteration going on here, guys. But he's in town talking to Tom because John is afraid. I mean, Mr. Bold is afraid that he may have said too much to his friend, and that his friend is writing these articles that are basically shaming Mr. Harding. And he's writing these articles based on conjecture that John has said, based on some things, things that could be true, that John is looking into. And Tom has taken them at face value and written about them. And John is concerned about that. So he's gone to Tom and said, hey, can you stop? And Tom is just like, oh, I cannot possibly stop. I must write what is the truth. I must be true to my blah, blah, blah. The discretion of Tom Towers was boundless. There was no contradicting what he said, no arguing against such propositions. He took such high ground that there was no getting up onto it. The public is defrauded, said he, whenever private considerations are allowed to have weight. Quite true, though greatest oracle of the middle of the 19th century, thou sententious proclaimer of the purity of the press, the public is defrauded when it is purposely misled. Poor public, how often it is misled, against what a world of fraud has it to contend. Bold took his leave and got out of the room as quickly as he could, inwardly denouncing his friend Tom Towers as a prig and a humbug. I know he wrote those articles, said Bold to himself. I know he got his information from me. He was ready enough to take my word for gospel when it suited his own views, and to set Mr. Harding up before the public as an impostor on no other testimony than my chance conversation. But when I offer him real evidence opposed to his own views, he tells me that private motives are detrimental to public justice. Confound his arrogance. What is any public question but a conglomeration of private interests? What is any newspaper article but an expression of the views taken by one side? Truth. It takes an age to ascertain the truth of any question. And John Bold has got a point there. Yeah, poor John Bold. Now let's go on and look at Mr. Bunce. He is one of the beadsmen at Hiram's hospital, but he is a really good guy at this hospital. He does rely on charity to get him through the last days of his life, but he is this good guy who is he is one who is a true friend to Mr. Harding. Mr. Harding will sit down by the fireplace at night and he will play the violoncello, and Mr. Bunce enjoys it. He will sit there and listen, and he'll have like a cup of brandy. I think it is. They have brandy together. He'll have a glass of brandy while he listens, but he doesn't overstay his welcome. Like, he doesn't ask for extra brandy. He doesn't ask for any additional favors from Mr. Harding. He is thankful for what he gets from the hospital. He is thankful for the extra, two pence we said? He's thankful for the extra 2 pence that he gets from Mr. Harding. He's thankful for the friendship. Okay. He enjoys the friendship. So when the other members of the beadsmen sort of basically turn against Mr. Harding, when they go after their own interests, trying to get more money, Bunce is not interested in that. He doesn't want to sign the petition for the lawsuit to go forward. He doesn't want to go after more money to the detriment of Mr. Harding. He's content with what he has. He's content with that friendship. And let's see, we look at him on page 168. Oh yeah, page 168, all the way here, all the way at the conclusion. We see Mr. Bunce, like his true character, here at the very end. At the very end, when everything has wrapped up and Mr. Harding has his own pulpit, Mr. Bunce goes. Let's see. Here he performs afternoon service every Sunday and administers the sacrament once in every 3 months. His audience is not large, and had they been so, he could not have accommodated them, but enough come to fill his 6 pews, and on the front seat of those devoted to the poor is always to be seen our friend Mr. Bunce, decently arrayed in his beadsman's gown. And I wrote out to the side, nice. So Mr. Bunce, even though, things didn't go the way the beadsman had wanted them to, he stayed true to Mr. Harding through it all. And even when Mr. Harding has a new place that he's going and preaching, Mr. Bunce goes to that new place and he sits in the seats that are reserved for the poor, and he's there. He's there for his friend. He's there to continue worshiping. Yeah, it's good. I liked that. Okay, that's our character list. Those are our characters. We've gone through all of that. Let's talk a little bit about this Jupiter newspaper, because what has happened to Mr. Harding is his reputation is being trounced upon. His reputation is being called to the forefront, and people are mad about the fact that Mr. Harding gets £800 a year, and the poor, the charity cases at the hospital only get this little bit per day, adding up to just a little bit per year. And the lawsuit that is being put forward is going to change that and take the £800 away from Mr. Harding and distribute it among the beadsmen. And somehow the beadsmen think they're going to get £100 a year out of this. They think that they're going to end up with £100 per year. And they love that idea. They want their £100 a year, and they want it right now. So some of the beadsmen, most of the beadsmen do. And so they have signed a petition to make this happen. Bunce did not sign it. There were 3 holdouts that didn't sign it. The newspaper, the Jupiter, printed a story basically saying that the goings on at Hiram's hospital are reproachable, and the goings on there are just to be condemned, and that Mr. Harding is a terrible person for taking advantage of the poor. And he's not taking advantage of the poor. He's just taking the income that was presented to him, the income that was given to him, assigned to him for the things he's doing. He's doing nothing wrong. He's just taking what was given to him, and he's doing his duties as he was assigned to do them. That's it. But because of this newspaper article, he's being run through He's being put through his paces. All right, so let's go to page 58. Let's take a look at cancel culture and trolls. Okay, in this novel, we have this biting, I want to say biting commentary on how the newspapers are able to just like rip someone apart. Okay, and as a member of the media myself, I see it, I understand it, and I am also horrified by it. Okay, so I appreciated Anthony Trollope making this statement in here and showing us how the media, even the media back then, could take something and just rip someone's reputation apart with just like a little piece of a fact, and then basically mislead the public with it. You know, take it out of context, blow it out of proportion, do something crazy, and basically trounce someone's reputation. I was so pleased that that is in here and is a message for people. I don't know how many people are reading it and getting the message, but it's in here. All right, on page 58, we have Dr. Grantley. Remember, he is the son-in-law to Mr. Harding. He's the son-in-law to Mr. Harding, but he lords over Mr. Harding. I mean, he is just, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that he is just he's manipulative, and he's kind of to be feared. He's this presence, okay? He wants to be right, and he wants to be obeyed. So when this article came out in the Jupiter, Mr. Harding is like, my gosh, I should probably write a letter to the Jupiter stating my case, right? I should stand up for myself. And, you know, the archdeacon is like, probably not a smart thing to do. Yes, said the archdeacon, more worldly wise than his father. Yes, and be smothered with ridicule, tossed over and over again with scorn, shaken this way and that, as a rat in the mouth of a practiced terrier. You will leave out some word or letter in your answer, and the ignorance of the cathedral clergy will be harped upon. You will make some small mistake, which will be a falsehood, or some admission, which will be self-condemnation. You will find yourself to have been vulgar, ill-tempered, irreverent, and illiterate, and the chances are 10 to 1, but that being a clergyman, you will have been guilty of blasphemy. A man may have the best of causes, the best of talents, and the best of tempers. He may write as well as Addison, or as strongly as Junius. But even with all this, he cannot successfully answer when attacked by the Jupiter. In such matters, it is omnipotent. What the Tsar is in Russia, or the mob in America, that the Jupiter is in England. Answer such an article. No, Warden, whatever you do, don't do that. We were to look for this sort of thing, you know, but we need not draw down on our heads more of it than is necessary. And you know what? As much as we don't care for Dr. Grantley, he's absolutely right here. You know, when there is a defamatory article written about someone, man, sometimes it's best to just let that go. Hope that society is going to forget about it. Hope that it blows over, right? Just let the negative press fade. Sometimes that's the best way to deal with it. Sometimes if you respond to it, try to state your case, try to stand up for yourself, you just get more crap heaped upon you. Sometimes that's how it ends up turning out. Sometimes. I'm talking about society today. Sometimes that's how it ends up turning out. You try to defend yourself, and the naysayers are like, oh, no, we believe the newspaper. No, we believe the mainstream media. No, we believe what's being said on such and such newscast, such and such other newscast. We believe that instead of the person who has firsthand knowledge. Yeah. I just went on a soapbox. Let me stop that. Okay. Let's see. Oh, all of this has Mr. Harding depressed. Okay. I mentioned a minute ago, he's just totally depressed by it all. I did mark one of these pages for us, page 78. Let's see if I can get to page 78 without too much difficulty here. Yeah, here we go. I wrote in the margin, Harding is depressed. He was doing nothing, thinking of nothing, looking at nothing. He was merely suffering. Leave me, Eleanor, my dear, he said. Leave me, my darling, for a few minutes, for I am busy. But he was busy doing nothing. He's just sitting there in a room staring at the walls. Mr. Harding is just, he got quite depressed at one point. Let's see. He also got quite paranoid. There is a part in the story where he decides to take control. He's going to manifest his own destiny, and he's going to go to the attorney who is handling his case, and he's going to tell the attorney, drop the case. I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm going to give up being the warden at the hospital. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to go back to this old, rectory that I used to run. I get, I think it's 80 pounds a year. I can't do numbers, you guys. I can't remember them. I should have written that down. But he's going to go back to his old job at this old place and take this, quite the decrease in pay. He wants to do that. And he's going to ask the bishop, hey, could you give me this portion of taking care of things for the hospital? Could I have this portion of it, which is another like 80 pounds a year? So then he'll have 160 pounds a year. He'll be able to get through life that way. So he's going to go to his attorney and ask his attorney to get him out of this, to drop the case. He's going to tell his attorney, I am basically giving up. I'm surrendering my post as the warden at the hospital. He's going to tell his attorney that. He is so afraid of his son-in-law, Dr. Grantley, that he's doing this surreptitiously. He's going to sneak away from his home, get on the coach, and go to London quietly, surreptitiously. He's doing this without anyone except his daughter Eleanor knowing that it's happening. And he instructs Eleanor, hey, here's a letter telling everyone where I've gone so that when they notice I'm missing, they know that I've gone to London. Here's this letter. Do not deliver it to your brother-in-law until I am safely away. Let me get through the day in London before you deliver this letter, because he doesn't want his son-in-law to come after him. And he knows that his son-in-law will come after him because that's the way his son-in-law operates. But that paranoia we see that paranoia in him when he's getting that letter ready, when he's telling Eleanor, don't give this to him until I'm safely away. We see that paranoia. And then once he gets to London, oh my gosh, the paranoia is like at its height. And we see that on page 126. Let's go to page 126. I mean, this poor man, he like lives in fear of his son-in-law. Yeah. Okay, I wrote paranoia. Oh, the warden had to make use of all his very moderate powers of intrigue to give his son-in-law the slip and get out of Barchester without being stopped on his road. No schoolboy ever ran away from school with more precaution and more dread of detection. No convict slipping down from a prison wall ever feared to see the jailer more entirely than Mr. Harding did to see his son-in-law as he drove up in the pony carriage to the railway station on the morning of his escape to London. Blah, 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 blah. And even when he got there, when he got to the inn where he'd be staying, I mean, he made instructions with the keeper of the inn, don't let anyone know I'm here. If someone comes calling for me, let me know immediately, but don't tell them I'm here. I mean, he was quite concerned, and he was concerned that everyone was in on the conspiracy against him, right? He just knew for a fact that if his son-in-law appeared, everyone would let his son-in-law know where he was. So he didn't want anyone he knew to see him. So he goes to meet with his attorney. His attorney is in Parliament. So his attorney is speaking on Parliament's floor. So he doesn't get to see him right away. And he ends up making an appointment. His appointment is for like 10 or 11 o'clock that evening. So he has all day to fret and to worry and to wander around London. And he doesn't want to go back to his hotel. He doesn't want to go back to the inn, because if his son-in-law, if Dr. Grantley had figured out that he was gone and had come up on the carriage, then that he might meet him at the hotel. So he wants to stay away from the hotel. I mean, he's that paranoid. Yeah. So he does meet with the attorney, and he does tell the attorney, I'm giving up the wardenship. I'm giving up being the warden there. And the attorney is like, I advise against that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And by the time Mr. Harding gets back to the hotel, there's his son-in-law and his daughter, and they're like, what you been doing? Yeah, it's a whole big thing. Yeah. But it's interesting that he finally exerts, I wrote this down, he finally exerts control over his own destiny, and it's nearly his undoing, really. So let's go to page 153. Here we go. I wrote in the margin, sad. All right. Let's see. Mrs. Grantley had gone out. He had therefore no one to delay him by further entreaties to postpone his journey. He had soon arranged his bag and paid his bill, and leaving a note for his daughter, in which he put the copy of his official letter to the bishop, resigning his post. Let's see. And leaving a note for his daughter, in which he put the copy of his official letter, he got into a cab and drove away to the station with something of triumph in his heart. Had he not cause for triumph? Had he not been supremely successful? Had he not, for the first time in his life, held his own purpose against that of his son-in-law, and manfully combated against great odds, against the archdeacon's wife, as well as the archdeacon? Had he not gained a great victory? And was it not fit that he should step into his cab with triumph? And I wrote in the margin, sad. That's sad. I mean, this man, he's a grown man. He has 2 grown daughters. He should not have to feel that he is combating against his son-in-law and all these forces to have control of his own life. He shouldn't have to feel that way. And yet he does. And it's kind of his undoing that he writes this letter saying, I'm resigning my post. It's kind of his undoing that he stands up for himself, because he loses 800 pounds a year. He loses his income. He loses his home. He and his daughter have to give up, the ponies, the home, the living, they have to sell some of their furniture so that they can go back to a more modest living where he's making 80 pounds a year. Okay. It's almost his undoing to stand up and be a modest and true man, which is a shame. That's a shame. But he does come out okay in the end. In the end, he does get to go back to his own rectory, and he does get to have that extra portion from the hospital. He does get to have, what am I trying to say? He does get to lead services, so he does get that income. So he has 160 a year. And, they did sell some furniture, so they've got that they're living on. And the bishop, who is his friend, is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to invite them to dinner all the time so that he can help feed them. And he wants to keep tabs on his friend, Mr. Harding, because, and the bishop really says this in the narrative. He really does say he wants to keep track of them, because if they start to starve, he wants to notice it and be able to help them. So the bishop is a very nice man. He wants to help his friend. Now, something else that I found very good, and my heart was happy about this, that the beadsmen got their comeuppance, okay? When Mr. Harding, when we're first introduced to him, we see that he gives that extra 2 pence per day to each beadsman out of his own pocket. That's coming out of his own income. That 800 pounds a year he's getting, he is giving charity to these guys who are already receiving charity because he wants to help them a little more. That's gone at the end of the book, because Mr. Harding loses his income. He loses everything. Okay. The beadsmen basically turn against him at some point in the book and are like, he shouldn't be getting so much. We should be getting more. They're greedy. They're little money grubbing, greedy people. And because of that, Mr. Harding is taken down and he loses everything. So he is no longer able to help them in the manner he used to help them. So the beadsmen not only lose their case, they don't get their 100 pounds a year that they think they want to get, that they think they're entitled to. They don't get that. They also lose that charity they were getting from Mr. Harding. He was giving them extra out of the goodness of his heart because he wanted to. Now he is no longer able to, because of what they encouraged happening to him. And I felt that was their just desserts. I was like, you know what? Good. And I wrote in the margin, good. Screw these greedy people. Because Mr. Harding does, call them together, after he has resigned and after the case has been dismissed and everything's been set the way it needs to be set. He does, call the beadsmen into a room, and he gives everyone some brandy, and we're all sitting together. And he's like, y'all are my friends. I have prayed with you. I have ministered to you. I hope there are no hard feelings here. I have no hard feelings against you all. You all were just trying to get something for yourselves. I understand that. We're parting now. I hope we're parting as friends. And he says to them, see, the narrator is telling us, Anthony is telling us, the new warden. Oh, okay. They were then informed that Mr. Harding's place would be at once filled by another, that the new warden would not be a kinder man, they all knew, that he would be less friendly, most suspected. And then came the bitter information that, from the moment of Mr. Harding's departure, the 2 pence a day, his own peculiar gift, must of necessity be withdrawn. And that's where I wrote out in the margin, good. We also see he is saying, some gentleman will probably take my place here very soon, and I strongly advise you to be prepared to receive him in a kindly spirit, and to raise no further question among yourselves as to the amount of his income. Were you to succeed in lessening what he has to receive, you would not increase your own allowance. The surplus would not go to you. Your wants are adequately provided for, and your position could hardly be improved. So he's warning them, look, you didn't win this case in my instance. You know, even if my income had been lessened, if I had stayed here and my 800 pounds a year had been lessened, it would not have gone to you guys. You guys would not have benefited from that. It wouldn't have worked out that way. So when the new guy gets here, don't try this again. And he's just warning them, don't try it again. I've been through the will. I've looked at the stuff. I've talked to the attorney. You guys would not have won. So don't try this again. He's warning them. And, you know, good for him for being so kind to them, even after they were mean-spirited. They were, I shouldn't say they were mean-spirited. Some of them were mean-spirited, but after they were unkind to him. Now, let's move on to the next story in the book. The next story is The Two Heroines of Plumplington. This was published in Good Cheer magazine in December of 1882. It goes from pages 171 to 231. We have our characters of Mr. Greenmantle and Emily Greenmantle, and Harry Gresham and Philip Hughes. Then we have a second set of characters of Mr. Hickory Peppercorn, Polly Peppercorn, Jack Hollycomb, and then we have an extra character of Dr. Freeborn and his wife, Mrs. Freeborn. These guys, these all, how do they all come together? How am I going to explain this? Because I didn't write down a Sandy synopsis for this one either, you guys. Mr. Greenmantle, he's the manager of one of 3 banks. Emily Greenmantle is his daughter, and she is of age to get married. Harry Gresham, he is the younger son of the Gresham family. Now, the Gresham family is introduced in the book Dr. Thorne. Their family is introduced there, but that was published in 1858. So this is a few years after that publication. Harry is a desirable young man for Emily to be married to. Mr. Greenmantle would love for Emily to set her sights on Harry, and he thinks that would be a good match. But Emily has her sights set on Philip Hughes. Philip Hughes is a cashier at Greenmantle's bank. So he's a working man, and doggone it, Mr. Greenmantle doesn't think that's good enough for his Emily. Well, Philip likes Emily, so there is this, yeah, it's not really a love triangle because poor Harry, he's not really in the story much. Okay, now over in the other characters, Mr. Hickory Peppercorn, he owns the brewery in town, and Polly Peppercorn is his daughter. She is also of a marrying age, and she is interested in Jack Hollycomb. Jack Hollycomb, he trades or works in malt. Like he brings malt that Mr. Peppercorn purchases for his brewery. Polly and Jack want to get married. They think this is a grand plan. And Mr. Peppercorn is like, no, you're not good enough for my daughter. I want my daughter to marry someone better, someone who can improve her station in life, someone who's worthy of her. He doesn't think that a guy who traffics malt is good enough for his daughter. You see a theme here, okay? Then Dr. Freeborn, he is a reverend in the town, and he thinks these 2 girls are just lovely and wonderful, and he wants them to be happy. So he thinks that these matches will be great. He thinks that that Philip Hughes will be great for Emily, and he thinks that Jack Hollycomb will be great for Polly. He thinks that these are going to be great matches, great setups. So he's not really meddling in their affairs. But when one of the fathers would ask a question, he's going to say things in favor of the match. When one of the fathers asks a question about one of the gentlemen, he's going to say something in favor of that gentleman. Okay, he's going to push things to be good for these young couples. All right. The book is described as the story is described as a romantic comedy. And if you read it right, it is quite comical. I mean, Mr. Greenmantle, bless his heart, he is just thwarted at every turn. He wants to set things up so that Emily is set in a good position in life. He wants his money that he leaves to her to go to a promising couple and a promising set of grandchildren. Okay, he doesn't want this upstart who works as a cashier in his bank to get his money after he dies. That's the way he's kind of looking at it. Also, not just I want Emily to have a good man. He doesn't want just any old guy to get the inheritance when he dies. So that's also on his mind. And that's also on Peppercorn's mind. He doesn't want Jack Hollycomb showing up and getting his inheritance when he dies. He doesn't want to give, 200 pounds a year to this couple unless he approves the couple. Now, he doesn't have any other suitor in mind the way Greenmantle does, but doesn't really matter. He just doesn't want Polly to be with Jack. Polly is a smart little devious gal. When her dad tells her that she's too good for Jack, she decides that means I must lower myself in status and in standing. I must no longer be above Jack so that I can marry him. So she starts dressing in her more common clothes. She puts all of her nice silk dresses away and she dresses in common dresses and common clothing, and she starts lowering herself. She will no longer meet with Emily, who is a higher status than her. She won't meet with Emily anymore, and she certainly won't call her by her first name anymore. She will call her Miss Greenmantle instead of Emily. And Emily's taken by surprise at first about this, and then Emily realizes, hey, what a great plan. You're going to snag your guy by bringing yourself down to his level. That's amazing and great. I wonder if that would work for me, but it won't really work for me. Papa's not going to go for that. He's not going to recognize that. And we really are of such a station that I can't really lower myself back to the station I used to be at the way Polly can, because I've always been at this station. So she can't really start wearing older dresses or common dresses. She can't really start doing that the way Polly can. So she's trying to figure out, what can I do? What can I do to, break Papa's heart and let me marry the man I want to marry? Well, she comes up with this idea of starving herself. She just can't eat anymore. She's so heartbroken wanting the man that she loves that she's not going to eat any longer. And Mr. Greenmantle is like, that's it. I'm taking you out of the country. We're going to go abroad. We're going to go abroad for like 6 months, 9 months, whatever it takes. We're going to go abroad. And hey, while we're out of the country, maybe you'll find some nice Englishmen abroad that you can marry instead. And she's like, I will never find another love. It will always be Philip, and even Philip is like, wait, you're going to take her out of the country, but I love her and I want to marry her and keep her here. Well, they realize that Emily and Mr. Greenmantle realize that she doesn't have all the accoutrements, all the things that she needs to, jump on a train like the next morning to go abroad. So that ends up getting canceled. And Dr. Freeborn is right in the middle of all of this. Every time someone goes to visit someone else and talk about what's going on with these ladies, Dr. Freeborn is right in the middle of it. Okay. He's manipulating things, but in a good, positive way. I mean, the romantic comedy idea of this is comedic. Okay. He's right in the middle there, just kind of manipulating things, kind of making Mr. Greenmantle feel like he's above situations. And then when Mr. Greenmantle is like, wait a minute, did I just get manipulated? It's already too late. He's already been manipulated. Yeah. So anyway, the girls do end up getting their bows. They do end up with the men that they want to marry. That does happen. And there's like a Christmas dinner at Dr. Freeborn's house, and everyone's invited and everyone gets to sit together and talk and have a toast to the new couples. So yeah, it is a romantic comedy. It's very nicely done. I enjoyed it, as you can tell. I enjoyed it a lot. Here we go. Is that enough? Have we discussed Anthony Trollope enough for this video. I want to read the rest of the books in the Barsetshire Chronicles. I'm working on diving into the next one. What is the next one? I should have written that down. I've got them in the other room. Because if they stay over here on this shelf, I will forget that they exist, right? So they're in the other room where I can start diving into them. You guys, thumbs up for Anthony Trollope, romantic comedy and biting satire. My goodness. Yeah, thumbs up. Thank you so much for tuning in.